Once upon a time, in the epoch of kings and divine mysteries, a question lingered like incense in the air. What was it truly like to dwell within the opulent walls of Solomon's temple? And how did the monarch navigate the intricate tapestry of life woven with 700 royal wives and 300 concubines? Each day, a cohort of women underwent meticulous preparations, their hopes kindled by the prospect of sharing a night with the king. Imagine an elaborate tableau of fragrant baths infused with exotic oils, massages performed with the essence of myrrh and aloe, and hair meticulously braided with threads of radiant gold. Evenings in the palace were a symphony of meticulously orchestrated rituals, where exotic perfumes mingled with the air. Hypnotic dances unfolded like dreams. Sacred baths were steeped in rare oils, and jewels were chosen with the express purpose of captivating the royal gaze. Yet the ambitions of these women extended far beyond mere pleasure. They were entwined with power, influence, and the delicate threads of political alliance. Prepare to embark on a journey that will unravel the inner workings of this immense harem, revealing the day-to-day existence within the temple walls. Ultimately, we shall unveil a hidden mystery, a shadow lurking beneath the surface, a supernatural entity that Solomon purportedly controlled through the power of his legendary ring. Stay tuned, for this revelation may challenge everything you believed about the most powerful king in history. Envision yourself transported to the year 957 BC. The rising sun casts its golden rays upon Jerusalem, revealing a sight that would leave any visitor breathless. A colossal structure looms majestically atop Mount Moriah, its walls adorned with pure gold, reflecting the light of dawn like a divine beacon. The Temple of Solomon was more than just a building. It was a declaration of unparalleled power and unwavering devotion. Its construction consumed resources equivalent to billions of dollars in today's currency. More than 180,000 laborers toiled tirelessly for 7 years to erect this wonder. Imagine the scene. Endless caravans of cedars from Lebanon, regarded as the most prized wood of the era, descending the mountains towards Jerusalem. Phoenician artisans, the most skilled in the ancient world, meticulously carved every detail with superhuman precision. The sound of hammers and chisels reverberated day and night as stone blocks, as large as modern houses, were moved with an ingenuity that continues to perplex experts. The dimensions of the temple defied imagination: 30 meters in length, 10 meters in width, and 15 meters in height, solely for the main sanctuary. Yet what truly set this structure apart was its interior. The walls were entirely covered in gold, from floor to ceiling. There was not a single spot where the eye could rest without encountering the gleam of precious metal. Giant cherubim, carved from olive wood and covered in gold, guarded the Holy of Holies with outstretched wings, creating an atmosphere of mystery and reverence. The courtyard of the priests was paved with rare stones, each one telling a different story from distant lands. 2 monumental columns, named Jachin and Boaz, marked the entrance to the temple, their capitals decorated with bronze pomegranates, and intertwined chains, symbolizing the stability and strength of Solomon's kingdom. At the heart of the temple, the Holy of Holies, a perfect cube of 10 meters on each side, housed the Ark of the Covenant. This space was so sacred that only the high priest could enter, and only once a year, on the Day of Atonement. The scent of incense constantly filled the air, mingling with the aroma of cedar, creating a unique sensory experience that forever marked the memory of those who entered. To maintain this impressive structure, Solomon established a revolutionary administrative system. 24 divisions of priests rotated in shifts, ensuring that the sacred service never ceased. Each division had its own responsibilities, from maintaining the golden lamps to preparing the loaves of presentation, and they were exchanged every Sabbath. This is just the beginning. You will discover how Solomon wielded supernatural powers to control demons, the secret rituals of his 1,000 wives on palace nights, and the occult practices that took place far from the eyes of the people. If you believe that God still performs great works in your life, comment now. The temple of God is in me. As dawn broke, long before the sun touched the golden walls of the temple, a symphony of sounds began to echo through the sacred corridors. The clang of bronze gates being opened marked the start of another day of intense activity. The Levites, divided into specific groups, began their tasks with almost military precision. The first order of the day was cleaning, a ritual as sacred as the offerings themselves. Imagine hundreds of servants moving in perfect synchrony, some carrying water in golden jars, others sweeping the courtyards with brooms specially dedicated to this purpose. The marble floor was washed so carefully that it was said that one could see one's own reflection in it. The temple musicians, known for their exceptional skill, occupied specific positions in the courtyards. Their harps, cymbals, and trumpets created a celestial atmosphere that could be heard even outside the walls of Jerusalem. Each song was carefully chosen for different times of the day, following the instructions left by King David himself. In the outer courtyards, authorized merchants sold animals for sacrifice, but it was not a common market. Each animal needed to pass a rigorous inspection by the priests to ensure that it was perfect and worthy of being offered to God. Prices were controlled to ensure that even the poorest could participate in the rituals. A complex system of aqueducts, considered a marvel of ancient engineering, ensured a constant supply of water for the different needs of the temple. Water was essential not only for cleaning, but also for purification rituals. The Sea of Bronze, an immense reservoir supported by 12 bronze oxen, contained enough water to supply all daily needs. The priests followed a meticulous ritual of purification before beginning their duties. They dressed in specific linen garments stored in special chambers. Each piece of clothing had a symbolic meaning and should be placed in a specific order, accompanied by prayers. Behind the scenes of the temple, a real city worked uninterrupted. Bakers prepared the bread of the proposition in special ovens, following a sacred recipe passed down from generation to generation. Perfumers mixed the sacred incense, whose formula was a secret guarded with as much zeal as the treasures of the temple itself. If this message touched your heart, leave your like now as an act of faith that God will pour out blessings on your life. Still in this video, you will learn how he dominated supernatural beings with his magic ring and the seduction rituals that transformed the palace into a place of forbidden pleasures, the harem that changed history. What you are about to discover about the greatest kingdom of ancient history will reveal secrets that few dared to tell, a story of power, seduction, and consequences that echo to this day. Imagine a palace so vast that it could house 1,000 women, each with their own quarters, servants, and rituals. Solomon's harem was not just a place of pleasure, it was a center of political power where the fate of entire nations was decided. 700 wives of royal blood and 300 concubines, each representing a strategic alliance with distant kingdoms. The pharaoh's daughter occupied the most prestigious place, inhabiting a palace built especially for her, decorated with hieroglyphs and furnished with the finest Egyptian pieces. Her sect included hundreds of servants, musicians, and dancers from the Nile. Her clothes were with linen so fine that they were said to be transparent like water. The princesses of Moab brought with them the knowledge of exotic perfumes, while the Sidonian women were famous for their skills in weaving royal purple. Each cultural group maintained its own traditions, creating a multicultural environment unique in the ancient world. The harem was organized as a miniature city with its own complex hierarchy. The royal wives lived in luxurious pavilions on the upper floors, overlooking the fragrant gardens. The concubines occupied the lower floors, still luxurious but less grand. Each woman had her own royal seal, being able to conduct business and maintain correspondence with her homelands. Special scribes kept meticulous records of each wife and concubine, their origin, dowries received, gifts exchanged, and, most importantly, any son born of the union. The administration of the harem required an army of officials: butlers, guards, cooks, musicians, doctors, and midwives. Life in the harem followed strict rules. Special messengers, usually respected elderly women, coordinated communication between the different sessions. No wife could visit another without prior authorization, a measure to prevent intrigues and conspiracies. What follows reveals the most intimate mysteries of Solomon's palace, where each night was a unique celebration of love and beauty. The preparation rituals for a night with the king began at dawn. The chosen one was announced discreetly by a special messenger, starting an elaborate process that lasted all day. First, she was taken to the House of Purifications, a building dedicated exclusively to beauty rituals. There she bathed in 7 different pools, each perfumed with specific oils: myrrh, aloe, cassia, and cinnamon. Her personal servants, usually 7, took care of every detail. The hairs were washed with aromatic oils and combed with ivory combs, inlaid with precious stones. The skin was treated with a secret mixture of honey, goat's milk, and essential oils, a formula passed between the guardians of the harem for generations. The nails were painted with henna, forming elaborate designs that told stories of love in ancient symbols. The clothes for the night were chosen with extreme care, fabrics so fine that they seemed to have been woven by spiders, dyed with rare colors extracted from shells and precious minerals. Jewels were selected not only for their beauty, but for their symbolic meaning and power of seduction. The royal room was prepared with equal attention to detail. Gold incense burners constantly burned special mixtures of fragrances, creating an intoxicating atmosphere. Flower petals were scattered on silk sheets, and oil lamps were strategically positioned to create seductive lighting. Musicians specializing in love songs positioned themselves in adjacent chambers, playing soft melodies inspired by the Song of Songs itself. The notes flowed like honey, creating an atmosphere of romance and mystery. The chosen one was then instructed in the arts of love by experienced elders who shared secrets passed down for generations. Each gesture, each word, each movement was carefully rehearsed to create a unique and unforgettable experience. If this message touched your heart, show your faith by commenting, "God's love is greater." Hold on, because what comes next will shock you. You will discover how Solomon used supernatural powers to control demons, the secret rituals of his 1,000 wives on palace nights, and the occult practices that took place far from the eyes of the people. In the heart of Jerusalem, the Song of Songs echoed through the corridors of the palace, a poem of love so powerful that it became part of the sacred scriptures. In it, Solomon revealed a vision of love that blended the physical and the spiritual, where human passion was celebrated as a reflection of divine love. The women of the harem came from diverse cultures, each bringing their own traditions of seduction. The Egyptians were masters of belly dancing, moving like snakes to the sound of golden sistrums. The Phoenicians knew secrets of perfumery that could enchant the senses, while the Moabites were famous for their love songs that made the heart melt. The palace housed secret gardens where fountains murmured among pomegranate trees and vines. There the women learned from each other, sharing ancestral knowledge about aromatic herbs, dance movements, and the art of seductive conversation. Each culture had its own understanding of pleasure and beauty. Special musical instruments were reserved only for love songs, delicate harps whose strings were made of silk, drums that mimicked the beating of the heart, flutes that sounded like passionate sighs. Music was considered a form of magic that could open the gates of the heart. Never before in history had a court seen such competition for the love of a man. What you will discover now about the disputes in Solomon's harem reveals a power game that shaped the destiny of a kingdom. Within the immense harem, each woman developed her own strategies to capture the king's attention. Some excelled in their intelligence, actively participating in discussions about governance and philosophy. Others cultivated unique artistic talents, composing poetry, creating exclusive perfumes, or developing hypnotic dances. The competition was subtle, but intense. Alliances formed between women of different origins, creating networks of influence that extended far beyond the palace walls. A cunning concubine could elevate her status by forming strategic connections with influential royal wives. Servants were fundamental pieces in this royal chess game. They carried secret messages, observed movements in the corridors, and reported every little event to their ladies. A whisper at the right moment could change the destiny of a favorite, and gifts were constantly exchanged, each carrying hidden meanings. A specially prepared glass of wine, a poem written on perfumed papyrus, a jewel with mysterious symbols. Everything was part of a secret language of power and seduction. The most astute women understood that true power came from knowledge. They studied the king's preferences, his concerns about the kingdom, his moods, and his schedules. Some became informal advisors, influencing political decisions through intimate conversations. To receive victory and change your life today, comment now. Amen. I deserve victory, Jesus. What you're about to discover about Solomon's children will reveal how the greatest kingdom of Israel began its decline. A story of love, power, and consequences that changed the course of history. Surprisingly, despite his 1,000 women, the biblical records mention only one son of Solomon, Rehoboam. But historians believe that dozens of other princes and princesses were born in the royal harem. Each birth was a political event, strengthening alliances with foreign kingdoms and creating new lines of succession within the palace. Each royal child had their own world. Tutors from distant lands taught languages, philosophy, and art. The mothers competed to ensure the best education for their children, knowing that knowledge was power. Hebrew teachers ensured that the traditions of Israel were maintained, while foreign masters brought wisdom from other cultures. Rehoboam, son of the Ammonite Nama, grew up in an environment of extremes. On one hand, he received the traditional Israelite education about the law of Moses. On the other, he was immersed in the exotic cultures of his harem aunts. This duality would ultimately shape his future reign in a tragic way. The royal children rarely saw their father. Solomon, occupied with matters of state and dividing his time between hundreds of women, delegated the upbringing of the children to their mothers and tutors. Each mother tried to mold her son or daughter into her own image, creating factions within the palace. Gradually, Solomon's palace transformed into a melting pot of religions. Each foreign wife brought with her not only her beauty, but also her gods. The pharaoh's daughter worshipped Isis and Osiris in chambers decorated with hieroglyphs. The Sidonians burned incense to Astarte on secret altars. The Moabites celebrated rituals to Chemosh under the moonlight. Initially, Solomon allowed these cults as a diplomatic concession, but little by little, seduced by the love of his wives and by intellectual curiosity, he began to participate in these rituals. He built altars for foreign gods in the hills around Jerusalem, each more elaborate than the last. The impact was devastating. The people, seeing their king worship other gods, began to question their own faith. Priests and prophets warned about divine wrath but their voices were drowned out by the sound of pagan drums and laughter from the harem. In the heart of the kingdom, a spiritual battle unfolded. While the Temple of Yahweh remained majestic in the center of Jerusalem, small shrines to foreign gods sprouted like weeds in the palace gardens. The perfume of sacred incense now mixed with the exotic fragrances of pagan rituals. Maintaining 1,000 women was not just a matter of the heart, it was an immense financial burden. Each royal wife demanded a standard of living worthy of her position: servants, jewels, fine clothes, exotic foods. The royal treasure, previously overflowing with riches, began to show signs of exhaustion. The tax system had to be increased to support the lifestyle of the court. The people, previously proud of their wise king, began to murmur about the rising taxes. Forced labor was implemented to keep the palaces and temples running, generating resentment among the tribes. In the harem, intrigues intensified as the king aged. Younger wives competed for attention, while older ones struggled to maintain their influence. Rumors of conspiracies circulated through the golden corridors. If you trust that God can restore any situation, comment, "Restore, Lord." Ancient texts speak of the Ring of Solomon, a magical artifact engraved with the sacred name of God. With this ring, it was said that he could command spirits and demons, using them to build the temple and his palace. Each giant stone, each massive cedar beam, would have been moved by supernatural forces under his command. The demons themselves, according to these legends, were forced to serve in Solomon's court. Some acted as messengers, traversing vast distances in seconds. Others revealed secrets of nature, teaching about the healing properties of plants and minerals. The Testament of Solomon, an ancient text, describes how he interrogated demons, learning their names, powers, and weaknesses. This knowledge was supposedly recorded in mystical books sought by magicians and sages throughout the centuries. But even with all this supernatural power, Solomon remained humble before God. He understood that his dominion over spiritual forces came only from the Most High, and he used this knowledge to glorify the Creator. If you believe in the supernatural power of God, comment, "The power of God is greater." Leave your like now and declare, "My faith is firm in God." May this action be a symbol of your trust in Him. Click now on the video that is appearing on the screen to discover the mysteries behind the walls of ancient Jericho.